So I feel like it's genuinely been a minute since I made one of these mock drafts for the channel, but a lot has been going on with not only the 2025 AFL season, but the off season, which has really encouraged me to revisit this because a lot of the picks have changed now on where teams are actually selecting, but also a lot of the players that I've been watching and I've been looking at have been changing, whether it's up or whether it's even players going down. There's been a lot of different movement and different changes, and even a player or two actually coming into now my mock draft who I didn't originally have. So of course my last mock draft I actually had the Eagles going with Kubaf Tyler at pick 1, but I feel like that is going to change now with me actually having the West Coast Eagles selecting Dersma, who is now the clear number 1 ranked player, and he's the guy I think will be going number 1 in the draft to the Eagles. If we actually take a look at what Cal Toomey's had to say about him on his Phantom Form Guide, he actually talks about Dersma, saying that Dersma continued to perform in his draft campaign and played well in big games throughout the year. The Brendan Goddard-like prospect can play just about anywhere. He flies for marks, takes on kicks, boots goals in big moments, and stepped up when it mattered at under 18 and VFL level late in the season. Dersma is right in the mix to be the number 1 pick and is as talented as any in the draft class this year. He finished this year predominantly as a forward and kicked 16 goals for the Power this year. Now again, Dersma, with how I like him to, I don't mind the Brendan Goddard comparison at all, and I think that's because people actually forget how much of a good player Brendan Goddard was in his prime, and he was definitely a high flyer who moved around the ground, could play midfield, could play in the back line as well. Very similar to Dersma, who started off the year, I feel like, mostly in the midfield, but there were times in the middle of the season where he was playing a lot of backline and actually doing the kickouts for his team, but then also playing up and playing some forward as well, kicking 16 goals, which is pretty insane. The guy can legitimately play everywhere outside of ruck. You can play him on the wing, etc. I think this is a clear pick 1 in my opinion to the Eagles. Then with the second overall pick, we have West Coast again, where I do have them selecting Zeke Yuland, and that pick being matched by the Gold Coast Suns. Now, Zeke Yuland is the number 2 rated prospect on the Phantom Form Guide in this year's draft as well. The utility player is, of course, attached to the Gold Coast Suns, just most recently playing in their Gold Coast Academy. The brother, of course, of Bodie Yuland, and a guy who, he can play back like his brother. Like, his brother's a really good backman, of course, and I'm pretty sure he even finished second in Gold Coast Best and Fairest, not this year, but last. When we do look at Zeke Yuland, though, I feel like he has more of the ability to play in the midfield. You also see what is being said here, his 180 centimeters. After his long layoff with stress back fractures, Yuland was keen to get back out onto the field late in the season, which he did for Gold Coast VFL side. While not dominating, the classy left footer had enough moments to remind everyone of his standing in the pecking order of this year's draft after being a bottom-aged All-Australian at under 18s level. The Suns Academy prospect has Errol Goulden traits with his hard running and smart kicking, and can move around the centre square to start his AFL career. Now look, that is true. Zeke Yuland didn't exactly play that great in Gold Coast Academy. Like I do, for the VFL, sorry. Like I remember watching him play in the VFL against Sam Grill, who actually played a lot better than what Zeke Yuland did when it was a Richmond versus Gold Coast game, and Sam Grill played for the Tigers. But even though he played better, you saw moments where it just looked like Zeke Yuland was insanely skilled, and a bit more time playing against men, I think this guy could exactly become like an Errol Goulden player. Maybe not on the wing, more of an inside kind of guy who can play off the half back as well. But he's very penetrating when it does come to his foot skills, and he's going to be another great addition to Gold Coast, and I think he will jump probably in their best 23 straight away. We have the Eagles selecting again, where I have them selecting Daniel Annable, and that pick being matched by the Brisbane Lions. Annable, of course, is the 5th ranked player in this draft. Midfielder who plays for the Brisbane Lions Academy as well. Tied to them, can unfortunately not be taken by any teams who are very interested in him. Brisbane are 100% going to match this deal. But it says, aside from the stellar performances over the past 2 years, the capacity to hit targets by hand and foot and step up when his team needs him, Annable is a draftee with leadership and someone his teammates have followed behind in recent seasons. The Brisbane Academy prospect played in the Lions VFL side in the finals and averaged 21 disposals and nearly 4 tackles across his 8 VFL games. Annable is a footballer and is ready to go. So yeah, obviously 21 touches a game is pretty goddamn good, especially for a 17, 18-year-old in the VFL. You definitely will take that. I think the Eagles will see him as a really good prospect, and will try and, bid on him. But of course, it will be matched by Brisbane, and I mean, the best team in the AFL only gets stronger. I think they will be getting him with the 3rd overall pick. I know I sound like a broken record here, but yeah, pick 4, West Coast. I do have them selecting Kubaf Tyler, who is the 3rd highest ranked player in this draft. Again, the 200 centimeter ruck/forward has really good traits to be a very good footballer. Is he the best tap ruckman? Probably not. Like that's not his strong suit. But what his strong suit is being a guy who will be a ruck who can play as an extra midfielder, moves around the ground really well, and when he's not playing in the ruck, you don't actually have to put him on the bench. You can actually pinch him as a forward, where he can play as an extra key forward. He's kicked multiple goals in multiple games this year in his under-18s competition. Overall, the Eagles definitely need a ruckman. They need a lot of things, but a ruckman is the main thing they need. Bailey Williams is not going to be their future. Matt Flynn isn't going to be their future as well as a ruckman, so they'll definitely need to look around. I think they can go in the draft here and get, obviously, the best ruckman and partner him up with Willem Dersma. So I actually think this is a great decision by them and something they're, of course, going to be looking at. With the 5th overall pick, though, I do have Richmond now, finally a team other than the Eagles. I do have the Richmond Tigers selecting Sullivan Robey, who is the 6th highest ranked player in this draft. A guy who is very new to some of you. A bloke who, like, from what I've heard, I know a guy who plays in under 18s, and when Sullivan Robey has come on the scene, he can confirm to me this guy's the real deal and is an absolute great player. He's a bloke who wasn't getting a game like 10 games ago, came in, dominated straight away, played finals and was nearly the best player in the premiership winning team. A midfield/forward who's 192, 193 centimeters tall, with Cal Toomey actually saying the bolter of this year's pack is firmly in the best group of prospects, and it has come from nowhere. After being cut from the Dandenong Stingray squad, Robey burst onto the scene mid-year with the Eastern Rangers. At first, he was a connector at half forward who marked on the lead and was effective around goal. But his past month, Robey has exploded to be a midfielder with burst, size and strength, having amassed 40 disposals and 3 goals against Western Jets and 2 goals and 25 disposals against the Calder Cannons the following week. In the grand final last weekend, which was a little bit ago now, he played predominantly forward and booted 4 goals to show his class in attack. Robey was a lot of clubs' best kept secret, but it's just kept rising and is now well in contention inside the top 10 picks, having been elevated to the National Draft Combine. I mean, yeah, those stats speak for themselves. 4 goals in the freaking grand final, multiple goals in a 40 disposal week, a couple weeks before that. He's the real deal. Again, I know someone who's played on him that says he's the real deal and is a pain in the ass to go up against. He will be a guy I think Richmond will really look at, because I think Richmond desperately need a high half forward, especially one of his size. You know, that Will Hayward, Cam Rayner type of prototype of a player. The 3rd, 4th tall who can move up and down the ground. I think Sullivan Robey can do that. He can also play midfield, which Richmond are obviously looking to boost. I think it's a great decision by them, and I think it's where they'll go. With the 6th overall pick, though, I have Richmond selecting Dylan Patterson, but will get matched by the Gold Coast Suns, who is ranked 4th. Dylan Patterson, another Gold Coast Academy player, like they just keep dominating. It's 183 centimeter midfielder slash defender. The Rocket is the most exciting player in this year's pool. When he's got the ball, it's a must watch. You aren't sure exactly what's coming next with Patterson because he sometimes makes it up on the go and backs himself with his pure speed and dash. But beyond that, the Suns Academy player understands the game well, sees options, and he can be really important in how to set up the team's attack from halfback or through the midfield. Patterson is dynamic in every sense. The Gold Coast Suns as well, they don't really have too many holes on their team. But one thing is, I think they may be looking for another wing. And Dylan Patterson can play wing. You know, I think Touk Miller will play a lot of wing this year as well. But Patterson can play wing. He can play halfback. A guy who I genuinely think could be in Gold Coast Best 23 coming up as well. It's kind of crazy to think they've got him, Yuland, Petrarca, and Jamara, who could all come straight into that round 23 side. Yeah, they're building big and good things at Gold Coast. With pick number 7, though, I've got Richmond selecting Sam Cumming, who is ranked number 15. The first really big bolter, I think, of this year's draft is Cumming. Of course, 186 centimeter midfield slash half forward. When talking about the Tigers earlier as well, I did mention that I think they'll be looking for a new high half forward, as well as looking for midfield depth. The reality is that Richmond really just don't have a high half forward in general. Like, you see a lot of great teams and they all have 2 or 3 elite, forwards who can do that role. Like Brisbane had Cam Rayner and Callum Archie, and even when they were playing with the 3 talls down there, Logan Morris was like that type of role, moving up the ground when they had Big O and what's the other dude's name? Ty Gallup. When Ty Gallup and the Big O were playing as the deep forwards, Logan Morris would play as that player as well. I think the Tigers will be looking at that. Their forward line last year, you saw, just got to be way too small. They were playing 4 small forwards at one stage, and I don't think that's where the modern game is going. I think modern teams like to have like 2 small forwards and those 2 high half forwards to maybe play with the 2 key forwards. I feel like that's where the, game is kind of trending, and even that high half forward can kind of be a hybrid of a key forward some teams have, like that Logan Morris. I think the Tigers need to look at that, because the only guy they've got I can think of who could maybe play that role is Sam Lawler. And Sam Lawler will definitely play that role, and he did for a lot of this year. But I think Sam Lawler imagines himself being a midfielder going forward, who probably plays 70% midfield, 30% forward type thing. Very similar to Dusty for a lot of his prime. I think that's what they're going to try and do with Lawler. So if Lawler's doing that and only playing 30% as that forward, you don't have anyone else down there. So I think a Sullivan, Robey, and a Sam Cumming could both be really good at that. Sam Cumming as well is a guy who I think can play a bit of wing, which the Tigers may also be looking at. When it does, describe him, it says that Cumming season was cut short at the end by a shoulder injury, which came after perhaps his best block of form for this season. He was a consistent member of South Australia's title-winning team, and his size as a midfielder slash forward has excited clubs, given he can also mark well for a player his size. 21 disposal and 3 goal game against North Adelaide was one of his best this season. So yeah, I think the Tigers will either look at him here or Sam Grill. But honestly, the Tigers, they do need some forward midfield rotation, because that's another thing Brisbane can do. Like a player like Cam Rayner can jump in the midfield if needed. Cal Archie was playing on the wing as well. I think the Tigers may look at that, bring in a guy like Cumming who can play high half forward, can maybe play in the midfield but also play on the wing. Sullivan, Robey, high half forward, a deep option as well, who can play in the midfield. I think it's what the Tigers could be looking at here, and it's why I've got them taking Cumming. But I wouldn't be surprised if they took Grill to get some, burst from the stoppage in there too. So we'll have to see how that one does all unfold. With the 8th overall pick, though, I have Essendon selecting Xavier Taylor, the number 7 ranked defender from this year's draft. 191 centimeter defender. He can play big, can play small. Pretty good ball user. Underrated, I think, with his skills when it does come to that. Finished the season off with a bang, being named best of field in the grand final, having 25 disposals and 15 marks across half-back. A lot more says on here, but I think Essendon will be looking for like that third tall. You know, they've got Mackay down there. They'll run a couple other defenders down there as well. But they recently did move on Laverde, who at times could play that role. I think Xavier Taylor is not only best available for them here at this pick, but makes a lot of sense when it does come to that, so that's why I like it. With pick number 9 though, I've got Essendon selecting Dyson Sharp, who is also ranked 9. Other than bringing in another backman, they obviously need to improve their midfield, and Dyson Sharp might be the best available midfielder left at this pick. He's 187 centimeters. I think was originally compared a lot to Patrick Dangerfield, or at least that's what I saw when I kind of watched him play. It said it is sharp size and strength which gave him the edge this season across all levels he played. The bigger bodied midfielder does what he does. He breaks tackles, he bursts through clearances, he finds the ball and doesn't play many bad games. He was able to put together some promising SANFL League games for Central District, having started for South Australia and being named captain of their All-Australian squad. Essendon could also use some leadership here. And if they think Dyson Sharp is a good quality leader to come in, he could be a nice option. Thing with Sharp is as well, he can also play wing and half back, which is cool to have that versatility and movement. Honestly, I just think Essendon are probably going to be going best available with these picks, even though both of these guys kind of fit their team, so I like that for them. With pick number 10 though, I've got the Melbourne Demons selecting Josh Lindseay, who is ranked 11. A lot of people really like Josh Lindseay and believe he could be a top 5 pick in this year's draft. Really good halfback who has awesome foot skills. Probably the best player who kicks out in this draft, you know, along with Dersma as well. Lindseay's 183 centimeter, classy left footer who was a consistent member of every side he played in this year, with Lindseay enjoying some key moments early in the season with the AFL Academy and also Vic Country, where he was co-captain. Lindseay can distribute the ball off half-back and also play up the ground as well, where he sees things unfold nicely. I feel like Melbourne have had that hole off their half-back line since Angus Brayshaw unfortunately retired from Braden Maynard's freaking elbow. It's like they could be really using a distributor off there. They found some guys here and there, none of them as clever as what an Angus Brayshaw was for them overall. But I think this could be a player they, of course, decide to target and one that they 100% look at. Again, it will be interesting to see where Melbourne's direction is going to go in this year's draft, but it is good for them now they do have some high picks. Of course, I'd very much like to hear all of your thoughts and opinions on this down below. Do you guys like my 2025 AFL mock draft? You know, maybe even make 11 and 20 coming soon. We'll have to definitely wait and see, but a lot of effort put into this video for sure, so we'll see if I get some time. Again, don't forget to comment your thoughts and opinions down below to let me know if you enjoyed it and if you agree with what I had to say. Leave a like to let me know you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel for all latest sports content news. My gaming/movie channel will also be linked down below, as well as my Instagram. Go check them all out. But yeah, as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.